trash kids when they saw this increase. Sorry, gotta go. Double G, double P. Sorry. Fortnite, Fortnite, let's go. I get it all night for sure. I'm on a Fortnite, let's go. I get it all night for sure.
Just how awesome at Fortnite they are. Now, a fun fact about both these guys, 7 matches played total. That was all they ended up running through. So they were able to get the maximum amount of points through each one of them, not needing all 10. And as we talked about with the breakaway esports duo of Serpent and Hype, averaging a placement of 2.67 across those 7 games. That is ridiculous.
That is extremely high. Do you know what other teams are sitting at in terms of averages like that?
I mean, you really don't typically will see placements like that in a 10-game run. Like in overall, like we've seen people being those consistent in like over the course of 10 games.
Right.
But like in that spree, I think the closest we've seen is the Twins out of OCE when they were playing more placement based and less aggro. I think they had one of the weeks up there where they were nearing 4, but sub 3 that's really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty incredible, like you said. And we see Hype just get the elimination on Pendragon, LOL there, just utilizing his edits there to quickly peek out, make sure that he's not leaving himself too exposed. Take a look at his partner, Serpent, who has got his own agenda of what he's doing over here. Looks like he's doing the same thing, but on the opposite side. So these guys just applying pressure all over the map.
Yeah, and one thing to note, it is a much sparser circle when you're in those very late games in terms of Oceania. Some players opting to play aggro, trying to get their games out there, will just go full send and try and burn through a couple towards the end to get into another one. But if you have good game management or the ability to just play consistently and ride it out, you can play this game all the way to conclusion and maybe snag what might be a slightly easier victory route for you if you're playing passive and defensive, which Serpent and Hype seem to have been doing so here with, I want to say, only 6 elims, but in comparison to the rest of the lobby, it's not a ton. It's good.
No, for sure. And to your point, kind of what you said about knowing, where your opponents are. Let's keep in mind that there's only 12 players left on this map right now, and only 7 duos remain. Make that 11 and 6. I spoke way too soon. Serpent secures another elimination there on Bray. But in terms of final circles, Sundown, this is not something that we see very often in these late games.
No, and it makes for interesting play because people can be more calculated, but normally you don't get as much room to operate. So now all of a sudden, Zank being in this 1-by-1 by himself, if certain Hype want to go pinch him, they absolutely will. They know this is a 2v1. They know there's no one else here, but Zank is now trying to get whatever opportunity he can to free up shots, knowing that the next elim that goes down is the top 5, and every single point matters, even if not for qualification, then for the prize money, with the prize pool being doubled in weeks 9 and 10.
Yeah, and Zank making that quick decision to just use the launch pad, kind of get out of there. He saw that there were players rushing at him, decided to go up, get the high ground, which does end up working out for him because he lays down a 35 and a 71 shot on opponents down below. Breaks a baller, which is going to be bad news for that player. He isn't going to have that additional protection anymore. But he is just trying to fire shots, methodically go through and see if he can actually get any kind of knocks or eliminations here to get that siphon, because he doesn't actually have any kind of healing, and he does take out Jimmy, so that is certainly going to help him for any kind of future eliminations or any kind of engagements here.
Yeah, and it got him into the top 5, and Goobaz actually ended up going down as well, so just getting the tags on the end of the storm as rotation does go up the mountain, the verticality being the difference there. Elimination does go over. That was the knock we had just talked about. While Replace goes through, he edits down, has nothing to catch himself, but luckily was on the edge of it. But Hype is relentless on the high ground, and now they're going to start working the top down. When we started on board with them, they had 4 elims, now worked it all the way up to 8. There is 9 and 10, and they're looking to close this match out, and this is where every point matters. Getting the wall replaced, and Slaya goes down. Well done from Hype and Serpent. 11 elims
Pull out
in
your
Victory
shotgun
Royale.
and catch yourself. So quick. Cat-like reflexes. Too bad Kitty Plays isn't here to comment on those.
And making sure that it was the player he had ticked twice with that proximity grenade. While it only being 70 damage, it's basically guaranteed if the player isn't boxed themselves up. But now we're going to hop on over to the Asia region while we see what was up with the Trigger QQ boys of the Vietnamese region, or the Vietnam country, playing on the Asia region. Apologies there, as we're on board here with Riki and Joyza. Some good shots coming out from that tactical assault rifle so far. 12 duos remaining, 23 players left as we're in the half in, half out.
Yeah, and we are seeing a little bit of a trend here so far with these games, Sundown. You know, not very many players left alive, but I think it's a great change of pace, and you can really see how the players adapt their play style to kind of, you know, counteract the fact that there aren't going to be very many people in the lobby. Ricky just taking down Seal completely as he was trying to rotate and use the launch pad to get out of there. So good on him with that elimination. That will be his first one of the game. His partner, Jazia, is sitting on 2. They are going to use the stinks to actually try to pressure this player above them, see if they can get him to come down, but he just gets out of there and says, you know what? That one stunk. I'm not interested.
Yeah, Cushy having no reason to do that. And you also notice that Joyza threw the stink directly on top of Ricky while he was pressuring. No friendly fire going on there. As you can see, Hooten and Peach on the low ground. But there's the qualifiers, Flame and Unique over on the side. And one thing I went through and ended up reviewing a lot of their matches. They had some hairy situations early, but pretty much every single early game, they got completely uncontested Dusty Divot and walked out with just max everything. Like, it was nuts and just getting a ton of rotation, but right here you can see right now sitting on 2 elims, have a decent amount of loot, good amount of mats, and prime area on the zone. So convert that into one onto Theo, getting a good knock with the help of the Storm, up to 66 points as we're inside that placement threshold number 2, top 10 ticking over.
And I feel like Dusty Divot is actually one of those points of interest where you can drop and get a ton of resources, all the trees being there. You know, some would argue that, you know, you're at a bit of a disadvantage because you are essentially, you know, not to pun, but you are in a divot. But you know what? If you can use those trees for cover, that whole area completely uncontested and for yourselves, you are going to come out of there sitting pretty. So we are taking a look here. They are rotating over. We'll see how he builds up here, if he tries to take high ground, or it looks like he might actually be making a play for that.
Yeah, he was looking to find it over on the side, but instead just opted to box himself up, realizes he has the RPG and wants to start sending everyone cascading down, but opts not to fire it. So interesting decision there. I actually thought he would have sent it down. Instead turns towards the player underneath him, and him and Ricky are going to try and isolate that player in order to convert it into an elim. Now he's going to look skyward. I figure he would want to reset that before they got too established. Nope. Instead, he's going to say, my high ground now. Perfectly timed launch pad to get it right at that maximum deploy height. And now, all of a sudden, Joyza and Ricky on the high ground with a whole bunch of resources.
And 12 rockets in their RPG. We've seen this time and time again. Explosives are extremely strong, but they are even stronger when they are raining down on players from ultimate high ground. These players do not have to worry at all about anything that is happening above or below them. They need to be looking up at Jazia and his teammate, because they are actually going to go on a little bit of a tear here. Let's see if they can get any more eliminations. They've already picked up one, but you can see him. Jazia's ready. He's got that RPG out, Sundown.
He has it out. He's trying to make sure it's loaded. Stinks continue going up. That looks like it's his teammates since he's just walking through that. Does hit top 5. Now Ricky has taken a solid amount of damage, but continues tossing down Stinks towards the low ground, but he hasn't found anything with it. So far, they've only converted this into one, and Ricky actually got knocked Flame all of a sudden. Flame and Unique picked up 2 there, and they're into the top 3 with a 2v1v1. Joyza on the high ground. Dorothy isolated in front of them. They're going to try and pinch. RPG comes down, but Joyza commits himself, falling down after the RPG, taking 80 plus damage. So now rifts himself up to the sky, but this is going to give Flame and Unique all of the pace, all of the pressure. Dorothy gets pushed down. Unique does get chipped out, so he needs to be careful. Joyza, recognizing this, knows he needs to go now before it's isolated, but there's the maximum deploy height. Might as well just be hanging out. Clips his head, finally touches his feet, and gets blasted for it. Flame and Unique, we hopped on board with them. They had